Hello guys and welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to data science with Python. So in today's class we are gonna learn some more mathematical operations that can be used with NumPy on Python. So basically the operations that we are gonna talk about today would be all the basic operations such as additioning, multiplying, dividing, and subtracting. All this with arrays, so it's gonna be basic matrix operations that I'll show you how to do. So we talked about it a bit earlier. We're just gonna have a refresher. We're gonna talk about putting everything into one single column. We're gonna talk about sum of x's, so basically how to make a sum of x's, and the square root and the standard deviation function. So let's start. So before we start, what we need a array. So basically what we'll do, we'll create a two-dimensional array and we'll work with it for the purpose of the whole course. So pretty simple, we'll name it var1, and this one-dimensional array will be, like always, an array with the odd and even numbers. So here we go. So we'll have 2, 4, 6. And the second one would be 1, 3, 5. So as you can see, pretty simple. Next thing that we will do, we'll have our second array. So in this case, here we go. We'll have our second array right here, which will be number 2. And basically you guys can change numbers or you can keep the numbers as they are. Basically I changed the numbers just for the purpose of the example. You don't need to have the same numbers as me. Just to show you that you guys can make some basic operations on arrays. Alright, so the first operation that we are gonna talk about in this course will be the addition. So basically, how do we make basic operations? So matrix operations on the arrays. Pretty simple. Simply write down print. And from this point, what you want to do is simply select your variable. So in this case, var1 plus var2. And you can run the app and you will have the answer right here. So basically what it will do, it will simply do a basic mathematical, a basic matrix operation. So in this case, it's an addition. So you can do the same thing for subtraction. You can do the same thing for multiplicating. So if you want to multiply arrays. And finally, for all array divisions. So it's gonna work pretty well. So as you can see, it gives us the right answers each and every time. So this is for matrix operations. So as you can see, it's pretty simple to understand. All right, next thing, let's say you guys wanna print, so you wanna put everything on the same row. So let's say you guys have, in this case, we just gonna keep one array. So let's say you have this array that is two-dimensional and you want to put everything on just one column. So it's pretty simple. How do we do this? So if we print var1, and you guys can see right here that it's on 2 rows. So basically it's 2 rows. And if you want to put it on just one column, how exactly we'll do it? It's pretty simple. So I'll print both of them. So we'll have the original one and the other one. So it's gonna be pretty simple. Simply write down var1, in this case the name of your variable, dot ravel, open and close parentheses, and here you go. So if you print it, as you can see here, you will have everything, so all your numbers on the same column. So just one column for all the numbers. All right, next thing that we are gonna talk about is the sum of x's. And basically when I'm saying sum of x's, you guys can make a sum of all the columns as well as all the rows on your, in this case, array. So how exactly this works, it's pretty simple. So once again, we have our array right here. And to be able to make a sum of x's, it's gonna be a basic sum operation. So simply write down print. When your print is here, write down the name of your function, of your variable. So in this case, it's gonna be var1.sum. So usually if you do this, if you just run a sum function, it's gonna calculate the sum of your variable, of this variable right here. But in the case if we want to calculate the sum of a certain axis, the way that we do this, it's pretty simple. So we just open up the parentheses, and from this point we just write down axis. And in this case, the axis could be equal to 1 or 0. If, for example, write down 0, as you can see, it will calculate the sum of all the columns. And if we write down 1, what it will do, it will calculate the sum of all the, in this case, rows. So if we print both of them, so if I print, for example, my my variable, so in this case var1, and I run it, so as you can see, first thing is going to be this. So basically, if I select axis equals to 1, it will calculate the sum of all the numbers right here and all the numbers right here. So 12 will be the sum of 6 plus 4 plus 2, so it's going to be 12. And 9 will be the sum of 5 plus 3 plus 1. If instead I write down equal to 0, and I run the app, it's going to be the reverse. So what's going to happen? 3 will simply be the sum of 2 plus 1. 7 will be the sum of 4 plus 3. And 11 will be the sum of 6 plus 5. So as you can see, it's pretty simple to understand. Alright, so right now that you guys get the sum of axis, the next two things that we are going to talk about would be the square root as well as the standard deviation. So basically how the square root function works, it's pretty much the same way as it works for if you make it on Python without using arrays. So it's going to be the sqrt function, but it's going to be written with NumPy, with the NumPy feature. So simply write down print np.square root, so sqrt, and then you enter the name of your variable, so in this case var1, and you can run the app. So basically what it will do, it will calculate the square root of all the numbers, so basically the square root of 2, the square root of 4, of 6, then the square root of 1 right here, the square root of 3, and the square root of 5. Same thing for the standard deviation. So basically what it will do, it will calculate the standard deviation of all the numbers and give you just one answer. So basically S is going to be STD. So if you run the app, it's going to be a bit different. It's going to give you just one number. So basically the standard deviation of all the numbers right here. So we talked a little bit about standard deviation in the statistical part. So if you guys are interested to know exactly what is the standard deviation, you can just make a research on it. But to run a standard deviation operation, it's pretty simple. Simply write down std and it will work. Same thing for the square root function. It could be really useful, for example, well, for the standard deviation, it could be really useful if, for example, you want to compare a number to, for example, the mean or the average. Or if, for example, you want to calculate, I don't know, let's say the volatility of something. If something is really volatile or not volatile at all, if there is a big difference between the numbers between them or no. So this is for this part of the course. So right now you guys know a few operations of NumPy. There is a lot more other operations that exist, but those ones for me are the basics. So that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next